All right, really quick, ladies and gentlemen, this is Alec Peters. The picture right here is the gentleman in real life. He played Garth of Izar in Star Trek Axanar. Did an outstanding job, too, in my opinion. And the man has graciously agreed to be my guest for the second time. He was also my guest last year. We can throw the floor open to questions, Mr. Peters, or is there anything you'd like to say before we actually start?
Can you all hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Indeed.
Well, thanks for having me.
Believe me, it's my pleasure and honor, sir. To have such a distinguished guest is extremely rare for me. So, as I said, sir, would you like to throw the floor open to questions right away, or is there anything that you would like to say?
No, I'm happy to take questions.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, toss them out there one at a time. We're going to do this the same way that we did trivia next door. Type out your name. The first person's name I see, they're going to be the first one talked, or that gets to talk as soon as I recognize them. That way there's no confusion. Corey, go ahead. Ask your question. Are you now working on any more Star Trek movie projects? And if so, what character or race are you going to be playing?
In answer to the question, we're not working on any other Star Trek projects at this point. We're waiting till the lawsuit is resolved, and then hopefully finishing Axanar in whatever form we can do based on the result of the lawsuit.
Mr. Peters, I'm getting multiple IMs from people saying that some others don't know what Axanar is. So would you like to give them a very quick explanation of what it is, or would you like me to do it, sir? Well, okay, for the benefit of the people here, Star Trek Axanar was an extremely successful Star Trek fan film. It wasn't endorsed by Paramount or CBS or anybody. It was hugely successful because it was done in the form of a documentary, recounting the history of what happened before Enterprise and Kirk even was conceived for the show. And the Prelue to Axanar show was about 21 minutes long, hugely successful. Now, they started a GoFund campaign for the full movie of Star Trek Axanar, and they raised a lot of money, over $1 million. And from what I understand, please correct me if I'm wrong on this, Mr. Peters, when they raised over $1 million, Paramount and CBS took notice and decided to level a lawsuit against Star Trek Axanar. And from what I understand, this lawsuit is still ongoing. But till it's all settled, CBS and Paramount imposed a ridiculous list of limitations for Star Trek fan films from now on. And that's why the lawsuit is still ongoing. If there's anything that I've just said, Mr. Peters, please feel free to correct me.
No, that's basically it.
So, okay, people, next person with a question. What was that? I'll throw a question to you, Mr. Peters. Okay, you're no longer doing any Star Trek fan films until the lawsuit is settled. Okay, what other projects are you currently working on?
Well, we currently have, I'd say 4 or 5 different projects we're working on with different film directors, mostly young first or second time film directors. Although we do have one project with, we're working with the rather famous science fiction writer who you all know. And then we're also working on the documentary about Axanar, which is basically a documentary about the making of and the lawsuit and everything.
Actually, my next question is this. Is this is the Axanar documentary also going to lean in as to what made Garth go over the deep end?
No, it doesn't deal with that at all. It deals just with the Battle of Axanar.
All right, cool. Okay, folks. Next question, please.
I have a question.
Okay, okay, go ahead. What's your question?
Mr. Peters, the actors that starred in Prelude to Axanar that are well-known names from the Star Trek franchise, like Worf's brother Kern, General Martok, Ambassador Saval, and that woman who was in the Flesh, that episode where she was a...
Yes, Kate Vernon.
Yeah. Did you personally meet all of them, and what? How do you feel about all of them? Like, what kind of people are they? How do they seem? Like, personally.
Yes. Well, I cast them all. So, Richard Hatch is my acting coach, and I've known him for 20 years. And because of him, I got to meet J.G. Hertzler, who are they're good friends. So they when I signed Richard Hatch, J.G. Hertzler was an easy get. After that, we met with Kate Vernon and then Gary Graham, and finally Tony Todd. So yeah, met them all. Richard Hatch and J.G. Hertzler especially are just the two biggest Axanar supporters. They're just awesome. They're always promoting us, and it's really nice.
Okay, somebody typed me a message here. They want to know, is Axanar a permanent dead project, or are you just simply waiting for the settlement of the lawsuit in order to continue the production?
Yeah, we're waiting for the settlement of the lawsuit before we can continue. So right now we're just basically on hiatus until things are settled.
Okay. All right, anybody else?
Okay, so you have every intention to proceed with Axanar within the confines of whatever rules and guidelines they eventually produce after this lawsuit is settled?
Yes, exactly. Once we know exactly what the result of the lawsuit is, whether we settle it or whether we go to trial, whatever happens, then we'll make a decision about what we can do legally.
I remember that you had said at the last talk that you had asked CBS and them to provide you with a list of, like a guidelines list, so that you could avoid any trouble, and that they refused to produce such a list. Instead, they just decided to go ahead with a lawsuit. What makes you think they'll actually eventually provide that list in the future?
Oh, well, they did already provide that list about 2 months ago. And it was just absolutely ridiculous. They were very draconian. Basically, the rules, the guidelines as they made them, make it almost impossible to make a fan film at all. Certainly not like we've been making them, like Star Trek New Voyages or Star Trek Continues or Renegades, or any of them have been made. None of those films fit under the new guidelines. So rather than provide us with reasonable.
Mr. Peters, we lost your voice there for a minute. You cut off in mid-sentence, sir.
Sorry. Sorry, the button moved on me. So, so rather than produce, a reasonable set of guidelines we could all live with, they kind of decided they'd do whatever they could to eliminate fan films.
Well, that's really disappointing.
Yes, we agree.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. Next question, please. Kresler, go ahead.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure talking to you, Mr. Peters. I'm going to kind of do a sideline here and just ask you how your week has been.
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
Yes. How has your week been?
How has my week been?
I think he's referring to the 50th anniversary being today, sir, and your planning and everything else, and whatever else you're planning on doing. I think that's what he means. I could be wrong.
Well, with that and how his week has been, yeah.
Yeah, I just got back from Dragon Con, where in Atlanta, which I don't know if any of you go to, but which is really my favorite convention of the year. So we just got back from Dragon Con on Tuesday, and spent most of yesterday recovering, I think, and catching up. And I've been just going a mile a minute trying to catch up on work. And not much has happened. Today was a pretty easy day. Not much went on. Obviously, happy 50th anniversary, everyone.
Thank you.
Next person, please.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
What other roles have you played in the Star Trek series?
Mr. Peters?
Yep, hold on. Well, no, I haven't played any other roles. This was actually my first role that I did, and it was because it's my project. I created Axanar and wrote Prelue to Axanar and the Axanar script. So it was my first role.
Okay. So you haven't played any other characters like outside of Star Trek before that? Because your face looks very familiar other than this.
Nope, this is the first thing I've done. But yeah, I'm kind of all over the place on now on Star Trek because of Axanar. So I don't know. You may have seen me around. I don't know. I'm on Facebook all the time, so you might have seen me on Facebook.
Yeah, maybe. Okay.
Anyone here is willing. You're more than welcome to friend me on Facebook if you'd like. I see there's someone here called New York Giants Chick 83. I'm a New York Giants fan. I'm just putting that out there.
Cool. There it is. Once the whole debacle with the permissions is over, what kinds of viewpoints will the fan-based movies take?
Well, okay. So if I understand your question correctly, meaning once the lawsuit's settled, and we know what we can make, what is that we will make? I think one of the things we're hoping to do is make more episodes of the 4 Years' War, which is the name of the documentary series that we made Prelude to Axanar in. So basically, Prelude to Axanar is episode 3 of the 4 Years' War documentary. And we kind of leave that open-ended. So it's quite possible, what we'll do is take the movie script and make it in 4 episodes of the 4 Years' War. So just like Prelude to Axanar. So maybe, hopefully that answers your question. But if not...
If I may ask... Sorry. Please continue, Mr. Peters. I apologize for interrupting.
No, that's it.
Well, what I wanted to ask is, if that's the case, if you're going to go ahead with Axanar, what about the insanely stupid limitation that CBS Paramount imposed that you can't use existing Star Trek actors? And I don't mean characters, I mean actors.
Well, this is all predicated on us winning or coming up with a settlement that that allows us to do it. So this is why we have to wait to the end of the lawsuit to see what we come up with.
What I heard is the main problem they had with Axanar, and no offense, sir, your production company, was that you were able to produce top quality special effects and performances with almost no money. You did raise $1 million for your Axanar movie, but you were producing top quality effects better than most of the special effects you've seen in the most recent Star Trek movies. And from what I understand, to use general terms, Paramount got pissed off about it because they're claiming this project cost $100 million, this one was $200 million, and you did the exact same thing better than they could for $1 million. That's what I heard. Is that true?
Well, understand that, of course, we haven't made Axanar yet. We did make, after we made our short film, we did a scene called the Vulcan scene, which we're very proud of, and which is available online. And yeah, I think that was that was a pretty impressive accomplishment, and it was done on. We basically did that scene for $15,000. So, yeah, wow. I think we're pretty capable of doing top quality Star Trek at a very reduced rate.
Well, as I said, I think that's part of what Paramount's problem was. At least that's my opinion. Okay, anybody else?
Mr. Peters, if you got your hands on a weaponized version of the phage, would you unleash it on Paramount?
No, sorry, I don't believe in weapons of mass destruction.
That's a question. That's a hell of a question. Oh, okay. How about any reasonable questions?
So there's a question in the chat box. Did you have to use any of the GoFundMe donations for the legal costs to defend yourselves? And if you did, what will the effect on the production of your product? Okay, so first of all, we didn't use GoFundMe. We used Kickstarter and Indiegogo. And no, our lawyers, Winston & Strawn is the name of the firm, work for free. They're pro bono. So we are not spending any of the money that we raise on legal costs.
If I may be allowed to say, offer my own worthless opinion, good sir, you might want to consider doing that. Because Paramount is a multi-billion-dollar corporation. You're going to need all the help you can get. No disrespect intended to you. But
no, we've considered, believe me, there at some point I'm sure there will be a fundraiser just for incidental costs.
As far as I'm concerned, whatever spare amount of cash I've got, you got. I want this done. I want everything back to the way it was.
Well, thank you.
Allow me to say this much on a personal note. This is my own personal viewpoint. J.J. Abrams and Paramount they butchered Star Trek. And I thank you profusely, sir, for keeping your Star Trek in the classic universe. Now, when they came down with these stupid rules, me personally... Huh? Anyways, me personally, I'm boycotting everything that has to do with the new Star Trek. I am not condemning anything classic, but this new stuff is absolutely ridiculous. Now, the reason I bring this up is because my only source for classic Trek was the Star Trek fan films, the series of Star Trek Continues and Star Trek Phase 2. And now, Paramount has screwed that up. And that's what's got me so upset. Oh, all right, sorry. I just had to get that off my chest. Okay, everybody, please, next question.
All right, I've got a decent question here. Do you know, Mr. Alec Peters, is this the first type of lawsuit against fan filmmakers from a large corporation like this? Is it the first, and will it be precedent-setting for the future?
Well, yes, as far as I know, it's the first. I know that other fan films have gotten cease and desist from Warner Brothers or Fox, but it's the first lawsuit against a fan film that I know of. And I could be wrong there. And yeah, it'll absolutely be precedent-setting. There's no question about that. I mean, this is a case that involves copyright law and what's called fair use. And fair use is a. Sorry, hold on one sec.
Fair use
Fair
is
use
under
is
attack
fair
all the
use is
time, including
basically
by
a
YouTube.
defense to copyright infringement. And so this case is very important, and it's a very big case in Hollywood because it absolutely will be precedent-setting, and I think, one way or another. Or also, it should be noted that this case is being held in Southern California, and if it gets appealed, it'll get appealed to the Ninth Circuit. The Ninth Circuit, based here in California, is one of the most liberal circuits in the country and very pro-artist rights. So, even if we were to lose at trial, an appeal would likely be very positive for us.
I should point out I do know of one audio fan fiction project that did get a cease and desist order, and that was Pendant Audio. They were doing their own version of Back to the Future Part 4, and apparently they received a cease and desist order from Universal Studios, and very shortly after that, Pendant Audio abandoned all of their fan film or fan fiction projects and stuck with their own original projects.
Yeah, again, others have gotten cease and desist. That is why this is so strange, is why did CBS sue us? Why not send us a cease and desist?
Perhaps they're trying to set the precedent.
Yeah, quite possibly, and they probably felt they could, scare me into running away, but as Jonathan Lane, who writes Fan Film Factor, if you read that blog, if you're interested at all in what's happening, his blog is excellent. I'm going to post a link. Basically, CBS just picked the wrong guy to sue. I think if they had sued anyone else would have folded. And but I'm a lawyer by training. I went to law school, passed the bar, and I, just felt we had a really good case, and I was able to secure pro bono representation.
That's impressive, sir. Like you said, a lot of people would have folded when they come up against a big corporation such as Paramount.
Yeah, which is entirely understandable. But, they kind of picked the wrong guy to pick on.
All righty, any more questions, please? Please, just throw them out there. Okri, go ahead. Yeah, we do. Don't get me wrong. In my personal opinion, while Okri's typing out his question, in my personal opinion, the last two movies, I haven't seen Star Trek Beyond yet, but the last two movies were well written and well executed, but they weren't Star Trek. The only thing Star Trek about them was the name of the ship, the name of the people, and that was pretty much it. It wasn't Star Trek as far as I'm concerned.
I've noticed.
Well, listen, I'm a little more forgiving on some fronts. I don't think anyone really likes Star Trek Into Darkness, but I really like Star Trek Beyond. I thought it was really well done. I thought it was. I thought there was a lot of Star Trek in it, and if you haven't seen Star Trek Beyond, I certainly encourage you to go do so, because it was a lot of fun. So, Corey, you have a question. If you win the case pending with full rights intact or with an agreement made, will you continue into making fan-based short series based on the movies and episodes you've made to continue the tradition? Yes, that's what we want to do. We want to continue to make more Axanar. And in short form is fine. We're happy to do it in that regard. So we love what we do. We love Star Trek, and we're big geeks, and we'd love to do that.
Let's hear it for geekdom.
Woo!
Midnight asks, was I at the Star Trek Missions Convention in New York last weekend? No. I was at Dragon Con last weekend in Atlanta, which I've been going to for 20 years. So no, I wasn't at Missions Convention. I heard it was a good little event. Interesting, I heard that Nicholas Meyer said the controversial quote that fans don't know what they want. And I love Nicholas Meyer. He's great. As a matter of fact, I have a special feature on the Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan Blu-ray. If you have that Blu-ray. And I got to meet Nick Meyer and tell him that. That was a lot of fun. I certainly respect him. But I disagree with him. I think fans do know what they want, especially Star Trek fans. Star Trek fans want something akin to what we grew up on in TOS and TNG. We want great Star Trek stories with great characters, and something that is Star Trek, that honors the tradition of Star Trek. Pressler, you say you have a two-parter question? Go for it.
All right. Well, yes, the fans do know what they want. I'm actually interested, as others, I'm sure. You've been going to Star Trek conventions for a very long time. Was there a bit of a, well, obviously there'd be some difference, but can you kind of tell us how it felt being someone who earlier on went as purely a fan to being someone who went, and being part of the story and being someone who, had some direct experiences with Star Trek?
Wow, Chris, so that's like one of the best questions I've ever gotten. Yeah, it's a little funny. I mean, I'm still go as a fan. I'm still, I was at Dragon Con dressed up in my Mirror Universe costume with my girlfriend. We still do geek things. The difference is that now people come up to me and tell me how much they love Axanar. And that's really, really nice. And that's really heartwarming, and it humbles me. So that's really cool. And as a matter of fact, we were walking across the Sky Bridge from the Marriott to the Hilton the other day, and on Saturday was my birthday. And
happy birthday, sir!
Happy birthday!
Thank you. And so we're walking across the Sky Bridge, and just some random guy just says, "Happy birthday" to me, and I'm like, wow, that's weird. But it was cool. Obviously people know. So that was kind of cool. So when I was at the Las Vegas Star Trek convention, I mean, the first night I go to the bar to have a drink, and I got stopped 3 times before I could order my drink by people telling me how much they loved Axanar.
Excellent.
And the next part of your question?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, let me throw the second part. You may have been asked this before. You've worked with some really many of us would consider iconic actors. You got J.G. Hertzler, you got Kate Vernon. People who may not have, some of them who have a very heavy background in Star Trek, and some even in science fiction in general. With your work with these folks, Tony Todd and Gary Graham, who would you say that you had the most fun, or who was the most interesting of people that kind of surprised you, in a fun way, I would say?
Well, Richard Hatch is a good friend, so there's nothing really different about working with him. He's the same person, right? I didn't know JG before I worked with him, so it was a pleasure to meet him and work with him, because he's such a consummate pro. He's so old school theater actor pro. I mean, he's great, very charming and warm and friendly, and he's just awesome. You want him to be your dad. I mean, he's that cool. Gary Graham is funny as hell. I mean, Gary Graham is just a crack up on set, and so Gary's fun, and I think Tony Todd he's very into his work, and so not only always the most personable on set, which is not a knock at all. He's just very much about the work. And Kate Vernon's fun. She's a sweetheart. We just had a blast. She was all dressed. She was so thrilled with the way we did her hair in Prelude, and I was joking with her that after Prelude we were going to take her to the Mad Men stages, because she had the total of 60s hairdo. So so it was a lot of fun.
Okay, Okari has the next question. Go ahead, Okari.
Where do you get your actors from? And if there's a way for fans of Star Trek can go to for aid in helping to make the movies you're interested in producing, where would they go to help? In other words, how can we, the fans, further help support what you're doing beyond providing donations? Also, happy birthday. Oh, Corey, thank you. You're sweetheart. That's very nice of you. Well, if you go to our website, which I am entering again, axanarproductions.com, we have a donate button there. And you can donate. There's a couple Prelude to Axanar, we call them retro donor packages, and you can donate and get the soundtrack, which is amazing, or the Blu-ray or the DVD. And that is the best way to help us. So, yes. There you go. So thank you. That's we only survive by fans' donations.
Actually, Mr. Peters, I wanted to tell you, sir, that I recently got my hands on a ton of royalty-free music. I was going to tell you that I would like to donate that to Axanar if that'll help at all. I got over 100 gigs.
Of what?
Royalty-free music and sound effects, sir. If that would help in any way, I would like to donate that as well.
Well, sure. We'll certainly take it and put it in our sound effects library.
Awesome. All right, folks, next question. I just got another I am. What gave you the original idea for Axanar and its format?
So that's kind of a two-part question. Originally, I've been fascinated by the episode "Whom Gods Destroy," where we see Captain Garth, and I always wondered what his backstory was. So I wrote my first Garth story like 25 years ago. Well, 30 years ago now, and when I was in law school. And so that was how it started. And then I got to play Garth for James Cawley, and which was I did a short piece in
Phase 2.
Phase 2, yeah. Excuse me as I'm trying to learn how to navigate around here. I was going to come and walk in front of you people. There we go. And so, and then for Prelue to Axanar, the idea was how do we make a short film that we can then use to raise more money. That was the idea. And whoops. Sorry, I'm learning how to use.
He's sitting in your lap.
What am I doing? I'm totally lost.
Oh, just click the button at the bottom that says "Stand Up." It's near the bottom of the screen.
Stand. Okay.
You sat in Okari's lap.
Oh! Sorry about that.
I don't think Okari mind.
There we go.
He's supposed to get the birthday lap dance, not.
So, how does it feel to have cuddled with the foxiest guy in the house?
The second part of the question
turn around?
is what arrow key, left and right. The second part of the question, sir, is what gave you the inspiration for the format of Axanar? In other words, it being a documentary.
So the format was really, and it was because if some of you remember the TV show MASH did an episode called The Interview, where it was basically a newsreel reporter from, back at the times they had newsreels back in the 50s, came and interviewed the MASH crew. And it was fascinating, and that was kind of the inspiration for Prelue to Axanar.
Nice. Very nice. Okay, who's next? Oh, we have the lovely Midnight typing out another question, I believe. Oh, by the way, Mr. Peters, when the Q&A is done at 8:00, I would really appreciate it if you would come to my booth and tell me what you think of it.
Okay, I have only got a little bit of time because I smell dinner cooking.
Alrighty. Midnight asks, are you familiar with Secondlife Machinima, and would you consider making a Trek project here?
I don't know what Secondlife Machinima is, but I would absolutely consider making a Trek project here. I'd have to learn more.
I'd be happy to teach you whatever you need, sir. I can provide whatever sets you need as well, uniforms, anything you need.
I have a kind of a legalese question, if I may.
Sure.
It was my understanding that if the project is not made for profit, that it couldn't be sued for copyright. Is that not the case? Or is it because that there's fundraising involved?
Yeah.
I mean, what is the exact stipulation of what they're suing you on?
Whether you're nonprofit or not has absolutely nothing to do with copyright infringement. There is it really falls. Copyright infringement is, there's laws. You can read what compromises infringement and all, but fair use, which is the defense to copyright infringement, basically fair use is when you say, yes, it's your copyright, but we're going to use it in this new and unique way, and there's a test for it. It's a 4-part test. And you go through a court would go through that 4-part test and see, okay, how does this line up with what we're faced with? So the fair use test is, first is, what is the purpose and character of the use, including whether such use is of a commercial nature or is for nonprofit educational purposes. Okay, so that's one. The second is the nature of the copyrighted work. What are you doing? Is it different? Is it the same, or are you just copying it, or are you using it in a transformative way? The third is the amount and substantiability of the portion used in relation to the copyrighted work as a whole. So, like Axanar uses a very, very tiny portion of Star Trek, of the copyrighted work of Star Trek. And then the fourth, the effect of the use upon the potential market for or value of the copyrighted work. So that's the 4-part test, and so you can see it's the reason there's a fair use is to allow people to use copyrighted works in a fair and equitable way.
Nice. Anybody else with a question? We got someone.
What about public domain? I mean, I know that it was extended thanks to Disney, fuckers. But won't Star Trek enter the public domain at some point?
It will, not for a while. I think it's like 22. It's I forget the rule. It's a certain amount of time after the death of the creator.
But wait a minute, hasn't all the rights to Star Trek been reverted back to Paramount and CBS? Don't they own it now, even over the Roddenberrys?
Well, yes, they do own it, but that doesn't change anything. It's still, the duration of the copyright is still based on the death of the creator.
So basically, then you're saying, even if they shut every piece of fan fiction down right now, when I believe you said 22 hits, you're saying we can go fan film crazy and they can't do a thing to stop us?
What, now? Or when they,
no. When the deceased author's time limit is up, I think you call it, or something.
Right. Once it falls into fair use, then anyone can use it for any purpose.
Okay. Any other questions, people?
It'd be interesting to find out exactly when it'll go into the public domain.
Do you have an exact date, Mr. Peters?
I'm sorry, say that again?
Do you have an exact date as to when Star Trek will become public domain?
No, I don't. You might be able to Google it.
That would be really interesting if that were the case.
Does Star Trek become public domain? Let's see if that ain't.
think we know if Disney and Paramount had their way, it'd be never. The reason things enter the public domain. When?
Yeah, 2061, when I'm 101.
To quote my mother, God rest her soul, I am going to be croquet the bucket when that happens.
Well, it would have been sooner, but Disney actually, when Mickey Mouse was about to enter the public domain not too long ago, Disney actually lobbied the United States government to push off the public domain for a good while. I think it was like another 25 years.
Wow.
So you can thank Disney for the extended
Midnight, you said that only the 1930s Superman became public domain. Isn't Superman a general term? And what I mean by that is if it's Superman, it covers all of Superman, not just a specific part of Superman. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, folks. I should shut my mouth. I'm sorry. I'm getting way off track here. This is all about Mr. Peters right now. I apologize, Mr. Peters, profusely. Please, anyone else have a question for him? Whoa!
Is he writing the sequel to Axanar?
Okari, the novel writing course is next week. Okay, I'll read this out loud. I really don't have any other questions, but I do have something to say. You're often thankful for the people whom donate, but from a patron's point of view, there's a reason we thank you. For us Star Trek and sci-fi fans, you help keep us inspired and imagining the greater possibilities of what can be. Keeping the dream alive is much more important than simply donating. Dreams are important to keep hope alive and the real exploration of space alive as well. So that one day, if there is other life out there, maybe we can step out into space with a greater openness to what we can't imagine. Please do keep doing what you're doing. As far as I'm concerned, the actors can speak for themselves in the decisions they've made to further the ideals of the Star Trek fandom. If Paramount wants to take down fandoms, then it's paramount that we retaliate. No, is that what I said? Yeah, retaliate for fair rights. You have my support regardless of the outcome. Well, you see, that's one of the reasons why I decided to boycott Paramount. Anything that has to do with the new Trek, I will have nothing to do with. They are never going to get another penny out of me.
Yeah, note that I also wrote in the chat that CBS owns the rights, allegedly, to Star Trek now, not Paramount. When Paramount and CBS separated, the rights to Star Trek went to CBS, and Paramount just kept the rights to make the movies. Well, thank you. Thank you very much, Corey. I really appreciate what you wrote there.
All right. Next question. No one else has a question.
Is there any word on the time frame of when these legal proceedings will be taking place?
We go to trial January 31st.
May I ask where this trial is going to be held, sir?
in Los Angeles.
I, for one, will be there with the biggest picket sign in the universe saying "Free Star Trek." So, are the hearings proceedings going to be closed, or is it going to be open to the public to attend?
It's open to the public.
All right, cool. Okay, so no one else has a question?
Did you think of maybe organizing some kind of protest outside of when the proceedings will be held?
That's what I'm thinking of doing.
Well, we haven't for Star Trek Beyond because we're very grateful to J.J. Abrams and Justin Lin for standing up for our fan films. So we'll see about Star Trek Discovery. Star Trek Discovery. We'll see how we come to that. I mean, obviously we're big fans of Star Trek, and we really would rather not have to do anything in that regards. Because we're fans,
I think you should organize a protest and tell everybody to wear all of their Star Trek garb and bring signs to picket outside of the courthouse.
Midnight wants to know how large is the online protest community?
I have no idea.
Okay. Okari has a question. Do you think that the actors themselves would show up in support of you?
I think so. I certainly know Richard Hatch would.
One thing I would like to add on a personal note, folks, as I recall, you did utilize this gentleman in Star Trek Axanar somewhere. Michael Liebman, one of the fan fiction voice actors I've worked with in Star Trek Excelsior, as well as Star Trek Outpost, passed away recently. I have a little memorial to him in my booth, so if you all want to check it out, please let me know. Okay, does anybody else have a question? Lord Commander Langley says, we could all come dressed as Star Wars clone troopers. That'll confuse the hell out of everyone. Michael Liebman, he's a fan fiction voice actor. He passed away about a month ago due to complications on the operating table. He's done, I believe he was a voice actor in Mr. Peters' Star Trek Axanar, and I've worked with him in Star Trek Excelsior and Star Trek Outpost. So, is that it? Nobody else has any more questions? Well, yes, as am I, Mr. Peters. Very seldomly do I have a huge celebrity such as yourself, sir, as my guest. So it is much appreciated that you were able to do this, sir.
My pleasure, and thank you all for coming and paying attention. And please visit our website and live long and prosper.
All righty.
Enjoy dinner.
Yeah, before you log off, sir, I'll teleport to my booth, and then I'll teleport you really quick. The reason I want to show you this, sir, is because I'm very proud of this thing. A lot of people have called this booth of mine disorienting, dizzying, and Debbie Dew, who helped me organize this over there, herself called it mesmerizing. So I'm going to teleport over there, sir. Ouch. I'm going to teleport over there, sir, and then I'll teleport you, and then we can say our good evenings. Is that all right with you?
That's fine.
All righty. One moment, sir. I will teleport you in a bit.
Mr. Alec?
Yeah.
I do want to say that I am very sincere about what I wrote earlier. I myself am former military, and so still a Star Trek fan. So I appreciate more what you're doing with the movies and the fandom, then you really understand.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that a great deal. Yeah, we don't take it for granted, what we do, and we really appreciate, fellow fans. I mean, we're all fans, right? So we all appreciate when we all work together to achieve something.
Exactly, and I'm pretty sure that everyone here, if we had our own chance, we'd stand up to those goons as well.
Yep, exactly. So, thank you. I love seeing how do I zoom in on this? Where's the control to zoom in? So I can see everyone's costumes.
You can use your Alt button and your arrows.
Alt and arrow. Okay.
Or what you can do for greater control. What you can do for greater control, hold down your Alt button, left click on your mouse and hold, and then push in, turn, pull out, so that way you can gain a better direction of exactly where you want your camera, your point of view.
There we go. Okay. I love that people are animals. That's awesome.
Oh yeah, we have a great furry community out here. As a matter of fact, there's a lot of Star Trek fans within the furry fandom itself here. So if you are looking for some ideas on what you could do with various races that could be included in one of your Star Trek movies, my big suggestion to you would be to visit the fandom.
Cool.
I give you my word, you won't be disappointed.
No, I'm fascinated how everyone outfits themselves and designs themselves, and it's all very cool. It's all very, very, very cool.
Takes hours to
Highly
knit.
imaginative.
Yeah, no, it's.
Kellin, are you sorted?
Yeah, I sent him 2 teleports. I'm okay. I didn't say this before, and it was
chatting.
extremely rude of me. It was extremely rude of me. Everybody, thank you for attending. You made this a very successful event, so thank you, everyone.
It was our pleasure.
Our pleasure.
You were saying, Mr. Peters, I apologize for interrupting you.
No, I was just sitting here chatting with everyone. So.
Okay. You ready to teleport?
Sure.
Alrighty.
Hi, everyone.
Thank you
Thank you so much.
God
Feel
bless
free to find
everybody.
me on Facebook. I'm Alec Peters on Facebook. Join the Axanar fan group on Facebook.
Okay.
Definitely.
Thank you very much, Mr. Peters.
God
Thank
bless everybody, and thank you again.
Yay.
There's going to be a little drop box up top. You just take that. Accept it. The teleport.
Okay, got it.
Yay.
Yay.
Cool guy.
Learned. I know. Yeah, really.
Well, anyway, I guess I will see you all later.
All right.